You can move so fast in a small business, and you can properly be brave and own your decisions, your successes, your failures. We woke up one morning last summer and Oprah Winfrey was wearing head-to-toe stripe and stare and had posted out to 22 million followers. Management and leadership looks completely different. It's not, grey suits anymore.
Cathy, thank you so much for being here today.
Pleasure.
So obviously you're the CEO of Stripe and Stare. Would love for you to tell us a bit more about what Stripe and Stare does and a bit more about yourself and your career so far.
Sure. So Stripe and Stare is a sustainable underwear company making super, super comfy knickers, eliminating VPL. But like all the best brands, I think, is also very sustainably focused. So we're a B-Corp. We make the product out of 95% cellulose fibers from beech trees, regenerative beech trees. So the fibers are super comfy on the body, and the product is about as sustainable as we can make it, but we're always looking for improvements.
Amazing.
So I've been at Stripe and Stare for just over a year and a half. Prior to that, my background was in product. So I was at Bowden for 15 years as product director, and then I took on brand and creative when I joined the board for my last couple of years there. So I really love brand, product, fabrics, color, print, and I really love the transformative nature of product and putting on something amazing and what that actually does for you and your confidence in the day.
Amazing. And what was it like moving from the likes of Bowden, obviously a big business, to Stripe and Stare?
Yeah, a bit of a shock to the system, to be honest. I left a team of 140 people, I think, at peak. To the entire business was around 25 people when I joined. So my first day, I was on my hands and knees screwing my desk together. So that was, it was
humbling
good.
experience.
Yeah, very humbling. It's good. I had to go right back to it. The bits that I absolutely love about it, you can move so fast in a small business, and you can properly be brave and own your decisions, your successes, your failures, learn, move on, and you can do it super, super quickly. So that has been a revelation to me, and I really, really enjoy that.
Amazing. And why Stripe and Stare? Why were you interested in that business in particular?
Yeah, so I was a big Stripe and Stare fan before I even knew they were potentially looking for someone. So I came across Stripe and Stare on, at the time, my favourite podcast, which was The High Low with Pandora Sykes and Dolly Alderton.
Oh, they were sponsoring it?
That's right,
I remember that.
And they were truly sort of mega fans, and I just heard them talking about it and thought, I'll give that a go. So I'd bought into the brand and really loved it myself. I was looking for something sustainable, I guess, or B-Corp, a business with values and purpose. And then when I started having a look at the business, when the opportunity arose, I thought it's a really interesting sort of intersection between consumer products and fashion products. You can't buy underwear secondhand. Well, you can, but very few people want to buy underwear secondhand. So a company that's doing it in a really thoughtful way was very appealing for me. And so when I started having a look at the KPIs, the sort of metrics within the business, I found it fascinating, the repeat rates. If you find something you love, you just come back again and again, which is quite rare in fashion. The returns were super low, but far more importantly, the customer advocation around the product was evangelical. I mean, 30,000 five-star reviews that customers absolutely loved it. And if you know you've got a good product, you can work everything else out in a business.
Yeah, amazing. And do you think there's been a bit of a shift towards people actually caring about their underwear more, what it looks like, how it feels, how it's produced? Because I think a lot of the time, I mean, when I was younger, it was kind of like go down to the big store and just get it done and like don't really care about what it looks like necessarily when you're a young person. Do you think that's shifted because of social media and all the kind of changes that we've seen in the world?
Yeah, I do. I think a couple of things have happened over the last sort of 5 years that have really made everyone rethink. One is I think we're all, well, not all, a lot of us are more socially conscious than we used to be. And we're really thoughtful about what we're buying. We understand the power of where we spend our money and what that can do for a business. So that definitely works in a small business who's trying to do the right thing, favour. I think the second thing is the Me Too movement really made a lot of us sit up and think about the male gaze and decisions we've been making around, perhaps wearing underwear that wasn't super comfy for us all day, and maybe looking at it through a female gaze rather than a male gaze, and thinking, well, what makes me happy? What do I feel good in all day?
That's interesting. Yeah.
So that felt like a real shift in what the customers were talking back to us about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're probably the two biggest things. Lockdown inevitably made people think about comfort, what they wear close to their skin. And I think the thought of going back to wired bras is a great example. There's some statistics around the percentage of non-wired bras now that women wear. And I think it's nearly doubled since lockdowns. I think that thought of going back into quite trussed up, uncomfortable, lacy, corseted underwear for every day. I think there's still a place for that, absolutely. But for every day just didn't feel quite right.
And is the main source of sales coming from online with Stripe and Stare, or do you have some pop-ups and everything, don't you?
We do. So we're predominantly a D2C business, which means we're online and you come direct to us. You can also buy us on Shopbop in the US. We've got a couple of really exciting partnerships coming up in the UK, so watch this space.
Great.
And then our Selfridges we're available in. We'd love to get out there more, because if people touch and feel the product, they really, really understand. It's twice as soft as cotton, for example, so it really feels great against your skin. But it's hard to make permanent physical space work for a retailer. And also advocation is one of our best routes to growth. Customers talking about us to other potential customers, leaving us reviews, mostly kind. We publish everything. So, what you read really is the true reflection. And that does work well on D2C if you can not just trust the brand, but trust other customers as well.
Amazing. And what's your main strategy of growth? Like, obviously you said about the whole, I guess, like affiliates or kind of this influencer marketing. Like, what's the best ways that you've seen work for you?
Yeah, it's really interesting. We've been talking about this a lot internally. We've brought on a new growth director recently, so we've been really looking through our approach to finding customers. The business sort of did it the wrong way round compared to how a lot of traditional businesses would do it. So a lot of businesses starting up will use paid social or paid search to find new customers. Actually, Stripe and Stare didn't do that at all. All the growth in the early days, I think for the first 4 or 5 years, was through customer advocation, podcasts, some collaborations with people like Fern Cotton on Happy Place and Love Shack Fancy in the States. And just good old-fashioned word of mouth. And so that took the company so far. And then we really needed to start scaling. So that's the point at which we started looking at paid media. Paid media has its place, but we will never, ever walk away from branded marketing. It's so important. And customers trust other customers more than I think they trust influencers now. So you have to be quite careful who you affiliate with, because customers are looking for authentic, relatable associations. They're not looking for someone that they can't ever really imagine in that product.
So do you do your gifting to like who are you gifting to? Is it the big influencers out there? Is it like kind of everyday customers?
A bit of everyone, to be honest. Gifting is a really effective way to get your product in people's hands, and we really back ourselves if customers touch the product, see it, try it on, and then wear it for a day. They really do then sort of take to social themselves, and they're very happy to talk about the product. It's not a one and done. You often see our products featured again and again in partnerships or when we've gifted. So there's a certain element of going to very big influencers with a lot of reach, right down to nano and micro, who often have by far and away the most trusted and engaged audiences. So really it's sort of all of them, but in a really thoughtful way, because you do have to be mindful that gifting, if it's not then worn and kept in circulation, is not that sustainable.
Yeah, true.
So, there's a sort of bit of a pull with that one where you need to be thoughtful about who you're gifting and what's going to happen to it at the end of life if that customer or that potential customer isn't that interested in the product.
Got it. Yeah. No, that's a very good point. Actually, I hadn't even thought about that, because you always think about like what's the impact that influencers can bring in terms of the return and the sales and everything, but actually what happens to those items if they don't do anything with them,
Yeah, so one thing we do is we always try and talk to whoever we're looking to gift and say, is there anything you'd like? We want to make sure that we're sending the right size, the shape. We do all sorts of different shapes, from high-rise to thongs and Brazilians in the original. So you try and make sure you're sending something that's going to appeal to that influencer or that VIP in the first place. Yeah, because you've got much more chance of them wearing it. Yeah,
for sure. And I feel like the founders are quite ahead of their time in sponsoring the podcast. I think that was quite an innovative move.
Yeah.
Are you still doing that? And have you seen it's quite hard to track podcasts, I guess, unless you give a referral code from the podcast, I imagine, or something like that. But
yeah, oh my goodness, brand tracking. That's a lot of the conversations we're having. So you are looking for an incremental increase is what you're looking for. And it's not always easy to track. So we do generally, if we sponsor a podcast, which we do a bit, but we're really thoughtful about who we sponsor. And I think it's quite saturated now, that world. And you'll often I was listening to a podcast on my way in, and I think there was 3 different sets of adverts at the beginning, 3 different sets of adverts in the middle. So to some extent, it's a bit diluted and a bit sort of background noise now. But that said, we have incredible success with, we sponsor the How to Fail podcast, Elizabeth Day, which, Elizabeth is a super fan and a brilliantly, a woman with substance, intelligent, authentic. She's everything we try and stand for. We really feel she embodies the brand. So we do sponsor that podcast at the moment. And you can track with code usage, but the amount of people anecdotally that then say, oh, I heard about you on that podcast, and then go direct to the page and load your search and order from there. We're always trying to work out the best way to track that.
And just make sure you're aligned with the right people and the conversations.
Definitely.
So who would you say is your typical, I know you must have a few different personas, but your typical Stripe and Stare customer?
Yeah, we do. I think our key sort of sweet spot customer, we call her Sasha. Nice. She is sort of 25 to 35-ish. She's intelligent, so she's likely to be a graduate. She's very clever. She's got a great sense of humour. She does not take herself too seriously. We call it sort of eco-warrior rather than eco-warrior. So they're very thoughtful, very mindful about purchasing, but also pragmatic. I think at that stage in your life, for a lot of people, you're quite squeezed. You might be taking on your first mortgage or starting a family if that's the path you're taking. So we have to be very mindful that you're a very small part of someone's world and someone's day. And we're just there to try and make that day a little bit more comfortable, a little bit of a sort of pep in the step, and then you don't think about us after that.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. That sounds like you put a lot of thought into who that person is and how they feel as well in the moments that they're going through the day, or they're going through these life experiences as well. So I think it's really important.
We do you're right. We talk a lot about how we make people feel, and the best brands, I think, do emotionally connect with you, because it's quite an intimate experience what you put on under your clothes and what you wear all day. And it might not be the thing that other people see, but you're, acutely aware if you've got a really uncomfortable set of underwear on, you just feel a bit out of sorts all day. And if you've got the right set of underwear on, you don't think about it all day. And there are way too many other things to be thinking about than your underwear all day. So we do really think about how we make someone feel.
Amazing. Yeah. And what's been your highlight of working at Stripe and Stare, and what's been like the kind of biggest challenge that you've faced?
Oh, the highlights, quite a few, I have to say, but completely unprompted, and she doesn't accept gifting. But we woke up one morning last summer and Oprah Winfrey was wearing head-to-toe stripe and stir and had posted out to 22 million followers in an outfit. And Cathy and Nicola have always sort of been real fans of Oprah and what she stood for, really for women and empowering women.
How did she find out about you guys and find the product?
Yeah, so Oprah lives in California and her local boutique is in Montecito, and we supply that local boutique. So she had found us in that boutique and then had been repeat buying our sweatsuits or our sort of heavier weight loungewear. And so we messaged underneath just saying, so excited to see you. You've made our day. We're a really small British brand. And she messaged straight back saying, absolutely love stripe and stare. I wear you for hiking, sleeping, traveling.
Wow.
And off the back of that, we then made the Oprah's favorite things list, which is the sort of Uber gifting list in America.
Yeah.
So that was a real high point. It felt like a very nice sort of circle back to the business with someone who'd inspired Cathy and Nicola in the first place. Some of the low points, I think, stock management is really tough, particularly coming out of COVID. I think a lot of businesses were caught with the wrong stock.
Yeah.
And if you're a B-Corp and you're really mindful of overproduction or producing the wrong product, that's really quite a tricky one to deal with.
Yeah.
Absolutely none of our product will ever end up in landfill. It will, circularity for us is not just end of life, it's also what can you do with the product potentially that you can't sell? So we want to keep that in circulation. We want people wearing it and experiencing it. So that was quite a challenge to get through what was suddenly the wrong stock. We weren't able to keep in stock of it in lockdown, and then suddenly, it was the wrong stock after. So that's taken quite some time to unwind, and we've had to be really patient to make sure that that's going to the most useful place.
So how have you come up with a solution to that? Have you found a way yet? Or are you still trying to work it out?
Yeah, most of it. So we did some sample sales, physical sample sales, particularly in the local communities. We're a Devon-based business. That's where the business was set up. We've sold some ourselves D2C in online sales, which lets people experience the brand at a much more gentle price, should we say. We've gifted quite a bit to charity. We're very thoughtful where it goes. So we have a local women's shelter, for example, in Plymouth that we donate to, and several other similar small charities. And then we've had a charity abroad. It's just making sure that we're getting that product into the right people's hands.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I mean, I've seen it across the board. Brands are hosting these sample sales. And big ones as well. You know? I think it's a trend across all retail brands at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, it is an absolute art getting your stock right, and it's probably one of the hardest challenges, I'd say, as a retailer, as a very sustainable-minded retailer that's very thoughtful about where their product ends up, because you're always walking that line of you're missing sales if you're underproducing, but if you're overproducing, not only are you needing to move that stock with a discount, you're also, you've overproduced, and that doesn't feel great when you're thinking about your footprint on the world.
And as a B Corp then, are you held to certain standards by the external body, and do you have to report and do checks? How does that work?
So the business, for transparency, the business had just received their B Corp certification just before I joined the business. But I've had a look all through the report. My goodness, it is lengthy and it's extensive, and it goes well above and beyond sustainable fabrics and factory practices. It's right through how you treat your staff. It looks at things like the age of your staff, the gender mix of your staff, the gender pay gap. Do you lobby for anything? It really is quite extensive. How do your staff get to work?
Really?
Are they using public transport, or are they coming in cars, and are they petrol cars or electric? So it's a really high standard, I think, and you can really trust a B Corp business that they are doing the right thing, and you have to apply. It's not for life. So you're constantly having to think what's next and improve your scores. And B Corp are really helpful at, if you're a bit stuck on something, there's a great community. You can go and ask, how can I approach this? Where can I go next? And it's definitely not about perfection. It's about progression.
Yeah.
Everyone has different challenges in their business. So it's just trying to do everything a bit better, rather than, really focusing on one area.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really impressive when any business is B Corp. I think, as you said, you have to do a lot of proving that the business is operating in a fair and sustainable way. So it's really, really impressive. So just turning around to kind of community then.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously community is slightly different to audience and who's buying your product, but how would you say the business is driving community within, the pop-ups, or is it through other activations, or how would you see that?
Well, firstly, I think it's a good opportunity for us. I think we could be doing more. So our customers sort of find their way to each other. So on social, if someone posts something, our customers will then interact with those customers. So there's a natural sort of affinity and a conversation that happens.
Nice.
Which is lovely to see outside our world. And actually, if we maybe are perceived to get something a bit wrong, our customers will come straight in and often defend us. So things like, sustainability is rarely the cheapest option. It's very hard to be incredibly price conscious. So if a customer's like, oh, but you're more expensive, actually it's other customers that come in and say, yes, but there's a reason why. So that's a really lovely, that's a really lovely part of the community. Whenever we have done events, so last summer we hosted a pop-up on the King's Road, and we used that space to have some events for Tencel, for example. And that was brilliant. I mean, you're just watching women exchanging phone numbers, having these great conversations, nothing to do with underwear. In fact, just how was their day and what are their challenges at the moment. So we would love to do more of that, bringing people together. And then within ourselves, we're always very sort of thoughtful. What happens inside a business tends to make its way out. So you have to really think about, well, what's the internal culture as well? What does community mean to us? How do we interact with each other? What's acceptable practice? How can we make our days a little bit better? And then we often find that in itself spills out to the customer and the brand. Yeah,
because I think customers do latch onto the idea of like who the business is internally and who works there. I think they can really sense when there's a good culture within a business nowadays. Because people love hearing about the founders and the team and what you're doing behind the scenes. I think that really comes through nicely as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, customers are so savvy and clever. I think anyone who underestimates their customer is just getting it so wrong. And they're funny, and they are supportive, but they also hold you to account, as they should. And without your customer, you don't have a brand. So you really, really true customer centricity. What do they want? What problem are we solving for you? How do we make your day a little bit better? Because it's a privilege for them to spend their money with Stripe and Stare. There's a lot of other places you can go. And so you really have to remember that.
What change would you like to see in the industry then moving forward? Obviously, you're tackling a lot around kind of the underwear, and I think it's so good. It's kind of, it feels quite niche, like everyone wears underwear, it's like a basic thing that we want to wear.
It's a large addressable audience.
It is. But what other change would you like to see in the industry moving forward?
I think some of the legislation that's coming in around greenwashing, I think, is very refreshing. It is incredibly frustrating when you see a very large brand with deep marketing pockets, sort of claiming to be very sustainable. And I mean, look, anything that makes it a little bit better is great. However, there's a big difference between the practices of one business to another. So I think more transparency around that will be only a good thing for customer choice, actually. So I think that's great that that's coming in. I think the other area I'm really excited about is rental and what they're calling C2C business, so customer to customer. So the likes of the Vinted of this world, where you can purchase, you can get that little sort of dopamine hit of something new and exciting. And sometimes you just need something. You need something for an event or an interview or an important life moment. So I think that that switch away from it always having to be something new, and almost the thrill of the chase of finding something completely unique.
Yeah.
On a resale platform, to me is really exciting.
And do you think it's ever going to get to a stage where underwear will become more mainstream on secondhand, or do you think people will still always want there's always going to be a taboo around it?
That's a great question. I can't see it because it is such an intimate product. We've done quite a lot of work with medical professionals around underwear, how often you should change it,
Okay.
whether you can ever get it completely clean without boiling it. There's a lot of elements that go into underwear, and it's so intimate and it's worn against such a close part of your body.
Yeah.
That I can't really see it being a product that people would willingly want to go and buy secondhand. Bras, perhaps more so than knickers.
What do they say in terms of how often you should change your pants? What was
yeah? So
what was the number?
I mean, very sort of strictly every 6 to 9 months.
Really,
you should be changing. Yeah, but we did run a survey with our customers, and we got great. We sort of ran a how often do you change your underwear. And the majority were sort of 5 years-ish, every 3 to 5 years. And then
until it's broken.
Yeah, pretty much. And then there was quite a good portion that were like, older than I care to own up to. And some great, that sparked a great community conversation, actually, of my goodness, I've realised that some of my underwear is older than my children. And perhaps it's time to change.
Yeah, because people still, I was talking about it with a friend the other day, and she was like, where can I get underwear from? And I actually mentioned you guys.
Oh, thank you.
And, but people don't think about changing their underwear that often for some reason.
Yeah.
And I would actually love to understand if you have a take on this and why that is the case. Do you think it's like a self-care thing that people don't do? Why do you think that is, that people don't change it for years?
Yeah, so we did when we were talking to our customers, we were keen to understand what makes up your knicker drawer. And on average, we found and we did a large customer cohort to look at this. They've got on average 35 knickers, which in itself in our office was either, that's a lot, or my goodness, that's about half. So it immediately sparked a great conversation. The 35 knickers, you've got around 10 of those are set aside for either date night or for exercise or period knickers. Okay, so if you move those aside, because that's not the world that we play in, that's 25 pairs of knickers that you reach for every day. So that is definitely where we want to live. Now, I think you mentioned it earlier, the experience of buying those in the past has been just quite joyless. And it should feel a little bit fun, and it should make you feel just a little bit better. You can be in quite a serious outfit, but you might have a neon pair of knickers underneath. So what we're trying to do is bring a little bit of joy and excitement alongside the comfort, and then knowing that you're buying from a sustainable brand that's doing things the right way. Then I think it becomes a bit more interesting to buy more. But honestly, the joyless thought of going in and buying a plastic 5-pack of black cotton knickers, I don't think that's ever going to reach the top of anyone's very busy to-do list.
It feels like it's like a bit of a chore almost. Yeah. Rather than something that you look forward to. Yeah, no, super interesting. And last question for me is, what would your one piece of advice be to perhaps women who want to get to a higher kind of level in their career? What would your piece of advice be to them to try and achieve that position?
Oh, that's a goodie. Well, I think you've got to work hard. I think people who find a career or a sector that they really enjoy, that classic, it doesn't feel so much like work. It does, but it's just work that energizes you and you're engaged with, therefore you enjoy, and you really, it's quite natural to put the effort in. I think resilience is really key. You do get knocked back. It doesn't always go your way. And being able to just pick yourself up and go again, and the quicker you can do that, I think the more successful you're going to be over time. And then I think just being your authentic self. I think one of the most exciting changes I've seen since I started my career to where I am now is management and leadership looks completely different. It's not, grey suits anymore. It is authentic, connective people who understand other people and how to get the best out of them. So, you know, hiring great people and then empowering them to do their job. So if you can, you know, develop your people skills, your soft skills, as well as your technical skills, then I think you can go as far as you really want to go.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And yeah, that's it. But thank you so much, Cathy. Great
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you.
Great.